Hello there, and welcome to Setting the Discussion. So this is the start of a new series, and this episode is going to be on snowballing in the 2018 gameplay update. So basically, I'm going to aim to set the foundation for some of the discussion that's going on, and my major point of focus is going to be on the correct definitions for the terms and the differences between snowballing and just rewarding good play. So let's get into it. So the first thing we're going to do is ask, what is snowballing? Now, snowballing is the act of widening the lead that a team has by exploiting things that are only available to them because of their existing advantage. Snowballing usually indicates that the longer this goes on, the harder it is to stop it. Now, increasing snowballing potential and increasing the rewards of good play differ in subtle but definitely meaningful ways. I'd like to look at snowballing as the opposite. So rewarding good plays is about rewarding good plays in the present, whereas snowballing is about punishing mistakes from the past. Basically, increasing the rewards about good play is increasing the advantage from a single event that was applicable regardless of the state of the game. So to explain those two definitions better, let's look at some examples. So the first example we have is a game of Infernal Shrines. We're looking at the top lane and it's Malthael over Sonya. Now, the Sonya is a better player who is playing better that game. So she starts to win. She gets 2 globes per wave now. That allows her to control her minion wave much better, take more aggressive trades, be less scared of ganks. And because she has that increased advantage and better control, that allows her to eventually push into a tower, take a tower down, maybe even another. And basically, that's the quintessential example of rewarding good play. Sonya went into a lane in a completely even scenario. She played better, she won the lane, and she got an advantage from it. So increasing the reward from that would be, let's say, making it easier for her to do. So making it easier for her to get 2 towers instead of 1 by increasing the minions or increasing the health she has, which is what happened. Or by increasing the XP that towers give. Either of those changes would contribute to rewarding Sonya for playing better. And that's what happened in the 2018 gameplay update, is minions got buffed and globes got buffed. At least in this scenario. And that gave Sonya the advantage she needed to reward her better for her good play. So let's carry on through this game. So the shrine now spawns in the top lane. Now Sonya has gathered a half-level advantage for her team from that lane. So what happens is the shrine spawns when one team is already basically level 6 and one team's about 5.5. And that's not an unrealistic scenario. That is most games are going to play on Infernal Shrines. So they start fighting, and Malthael's team, they have to come because they have no wall in the top lane. So they have to come and fight this. And Sonya's team, they have to go there as well because they'd get so much if they get this Punisher. So this can play out many ways, but the way we're going to see it play out here is it's going to be quite a slow fight. And one team's going to hit level 7. Sonya's team gets level 7, whereas Malthael's team is still on 6.5. Now, with that level 7 advantage, Sonya's team takes the shrine because Malthael's team backs. They now walk onto the fort. They dive past the fort. The Punisher takes barely any damage because obviously the fort itself doesn't do a huge amount. It also has to target a minion wave. There's probably a minion wave here as well. Sonya's team, they all get to hit the fort and they march onwards. So they've got some more XP now. Then they take the keep wall. They now back out. That keep wall was completely free because they had a Punisher and they had the players there with a talent advantage. Now, after that whole play happens, we're looking at around level 9 versus around level 8. If Sonya's team plays this well, they're going to back off. They're going to get level 10 first. And after they get level 10, they're then going to use that to force something else. If they force something else well with that and they continue snowballing their advantage, then they're going to end up at 12 or 13 when Malthael's team hits 10. And, okay, if we continue that example, I think it's pretty obvious where this one's going. They're always going to be a 10 ahead. They're going to take more and more as they take more objectives. And the game snowballed. It's out of control. So, at some point in our timeline, that game snowballed. And where was it and what allowed it to happen is the question I'm asking. Let's look at a different example just to show that that is not especially weird. That's not this unlikely 1 in a million series of events. There's many ways that we can get to that exact position, and they're not exactly unlikely, as I'm sure you guys will know and feel. So our other example, we're still on Infernal Shrines. We're still going Malthael versus Sonya top, but this time they're both very good players. They both play well into each other. Neither one gets an advantage, and nothing really happens in the top lane. Honestly, I think that's the most likely outcome of playing that top lane. However, the Shrine spawns top again. So all the teams come top. It's a 5v5. Very, very close fight. However, one team, they have the Malthael, and the Malthael, he sees the red mist, and he goes in too far, and he actually overextends and dies. So Sonya's team wins that shrine. Now Sonya's team, they have a sustain healer. They have something like a Lucio or a Malfurion, whereas Malthael's team, they actually had an Uther. Because they had a more late game team comp. They had like, you know, Uther Genji, Uther Malthael, some combo like that. And because they have the Uther, that means they can't heal up and they need to back. So the fight happens. Sonya's team, they leave Sonya on shrine. The other 4, they go push down the wall. Now, this might sound pretty familiar. This is the exact scenario where we were in. Both times, the mistakes of one player have led to a situation where the game is going to snowball out of control. Now, one of them included rewarding good play. This Sonya outplayed the Malthael, but the other one only involved the Malthael dying. So as you can see, both of these terms and both of these sections of the game have resulted in very similar outcomes. And that's why there's so much confusion and why it's so hard to define these terms. So let's go through the changes and find out where we're rewarding good play and where we are increasing snowballing potential. So the first changes are the tower changes, and as far as I can see, these aren't contributing to rewarding good plays at all, but they are brutal when it comes to snowballing. It's made forts incredibly easy to dive past and to control, and this is the insane thing, is when the enemy team has either a talent advantage or a pushing advantage with a large minion wave, or an objective advantage with something like a Punisher or an Immortal or a boss, they can control your fort without taking it down. They can just march past it, and they are completely in control of that area. And that's where the removal of that standalone tower is really hurting. If that standalone tower was still there, then they'd need to take that down first, and the defensive team can play around that as an area of defense, but it's not. So the minion wave barely ever dies to the fort. It definitely won't if there's a pushing objective there. And the pushing objective itself takes much less damage because all the minions are hitting the fort instead of being spread across. The enemy team can walk past because if nothing got to that standalone tower, then it would fire at the first hero in range. But the standalone tower doesn't exist. So that's why it's so easy to walk past forts and to just dive them right now. We can also look at the minion changes. So the minion changes have probably contributed to both quite equally. And also taken away in some aspects as well. So it's become a lot easier to force advantages in lane and reward that if you're winning the lane by the minions doing a lot more damage to the towers. But it's also become easier to snowball with large pushes, like getting that Punisher and getting 2 minion waves. Well, the minions are really doing as much damage as the heroes in that section. They do a lot of damage to structures now. So probably rewarding both equally, but also taking away from that snowball potential because of the fact that the minions interact with towers and towers now no longer have ammo, kind of even itself out. So the minion changes, not too many issues with that, I think. The globe changes, they do have a minor impact on snowballing. They make it a lot easier to sustain, and they make it a lot easier to stay there and like force that snowball onto the enemy team. But that's a pretty minor point in my opinion, and they've done a lot for rewarding good play. So I think globe change is predominantly very good as well. With the map objectives, the big change has been they generally start spawning later. And that's fine in theory, but the issue is that their scaling has not changed. And nor has towers and forts, apart from they've lost a tower. So that means that the mercenaries are like exponentially stronger in relation to the towers that they are pushing. Not mercenaries, sorry. The bosses and map objectives are exponentially stronger in relation to what they are pushing. So in this scenario, we're actually looking at an immortal. We're looking at the second immortal strength thing coming in to the first immortal slot. And that's meaning that the first Punisher and the first immortal are much stronger than they should be. Pair that with the structure changes, and we're seeing a huge amount of snowballing from that, and honestly not much rewarding good play at all. And then last off is the mercenary changes, and similar to the minion changes, I don't think these have had a huge effect in any direction, but they have had significant effects about changing the playstyle that people have to use in the game. So snowballing with mercenaries is scary. Yes, I agree. Taking that night camp, pushing down the lane, that is scary. But at the same time, taking the Hellbats, taking the Siege Giants, having them march down the opposite lane, that's a lot scarier because the enemy team now has to deal with them. And they can't just ignore them and keep pushing with their own death ball. So they've helped out on both sides of that. They've also rewarded good play though by rewarding and incentivizing sneaking them in without losing towers and invading to take them. So overall, I think the mercenary changes have been very helpful and very interesting, if some are maybe a little overtuned. So what's the takeaway of this video? Now, when you're frustrated about a loss, think back about how it happened and the series of events that led to your loss. Did you actually have multiple chances to come back, but your team was just too weak as a collective unit to actually capitalize on them, and you just lost time and time again, and then you lost the game? Or did you play out that game and one or two players on your team made one or two mistakes, and after those mistakes the game was basically over? In our Infernal Shrines example we spoke about earlier, Malthael's team definitely had a lot of opportunities to fight, but they weren't realistic. If they lose a fight when they're trying to fight against the Punisher, that wasn't a fair fight. That wasn't really a chance. If they lose a fight 13 versus 10, again, that's not really a fight. That's not a chance. However, there could be a scenario where Sonya wins that lane, and then Sonya's the one that dies on top shrine. So then Malthael's team gets the Punisher, but they've got Malthael and Hanzo, so then they can't push walls. Like Malthael, Hanzo, Uther, so they can't push walls. So then it ends up being even. Both teams take a wall, you know, like there's a lot of ways that this can go even, and people are still calling it snowballing just because they've got the weaker team and they keep losing. But there are a lot of situations where things actually are snowballing. So I'm really hoping after this video we can set the discussion, make sure people know the terms they're talking about, make sure they recognize what they like and don't like about these changes, and hopefully just have a more healthy discussion and eventually a more healthy game because of it. So thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please do like and subscribe, and follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/bakery.